is the America's Spring Playoffs. Round 1. Ready, set, go!
We are ready to get into round number 1 of the America's Spring Playoffs. I am excited. It's always great to just kick off that first round, get going, and already start to see the table split a little bit in terms of results. We are going to be kicking off, as we said earlier, with Amnesiac versus wtybill. And wtybill, actually, we've spoken a lot about Amnesiac. But Bill, he's actually come through Tavern Hero, but not the most common of Tavern Hero stories for him. We've seen him before.
Yeah, no, wtybill is a cracking player, and we talked a lot last week about, the fact that Tavern Heroes just haven't really got there historically in playoffs. If a player is going to be able to do it, wtybill has the pedigree already. He has been a championship competitor in the past, so him coming in through the Tavern Hero system could be a big boon to their win rate going forward. But for me, the most important thing to point out about this matchup is something that you will be hearing a lot of the casters saying this weekend, whereas this is very slow control against very slow control. Both of these players have brought extremely heavy, greedy lineups. They both have the Spirit Echo Shaman. They both have a Control Paladin. There's a Jade Druid, a Taunt Warrior, Quest Rogue, Dragon Priest. Absolutely insane late game battles are going to go down in this series.
Yeah, and these players are just raring to get started, so we're going to go straight into game number 1 of Amnesiac versus wtybill. Amnesiac on the Control Paladin and wtybill on the Jade Druid. And you were saying, last weekend, Paladin was almost a story in itself and has been since Ungoro has come out. We've seen a lot of the Murloc-heavy, aggressive Paladin lists. Already, let's just check out the Doomsayer in Amnesiac's opening hand, as well as almost just everything else. He runs a Forbidden Healing, an Ivory Knight. This is just a full control list to the max, but is it going to be able to stand up against wtybill's Jade Druid?
It's an excellent question. The Jade Druid in itself is probably the most likely deck here for wtybill to get a win. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not sure if we saw the bans on screen, but I imagine Amnesiac has banned out the Quest Rogue from wtybill because that deck single-handedly farms his lineup. So of the decks that I presume to be remaining, the Jade Druid is kind of the least important deck. It's the one that's going to find a win somewhere. There is a Black Knight in this bad boy, so if this comes up against Quest Warrior from Amnesiac, he's just not winning that game. So Jade Druid is going to get a win here, but, crucially, this being a heavy control list from Amnesiac helps him dodge a couple of tech cards that Bill has gone for, because throughout Bill's lineup, it's actually even a little bit greedier than Amnesiac's overall. There's an Azoth in the Paladin, for example. There's the Jade Druid as the ultimate control buster, but he's also offset that by including some tech cards that are going to whiff completely against Amnesiac. There is a Hungry Crab in his Jade Druid. There is Eater of Secrets in his decks as well. So the only card in Amnesiac's entire lineup that plays into either of those cards is the 2 Hydrologists that he has in this Paladin deck.
Really hates Hydrologist, I guess. He wants to completely destroy every atom of that card.
My strategy for this tournament is I'm targeting Hydrologist.
Yes, definitely a potential win condition, as we'll see how it plays out. Amnesiac gonna just drop the Doomsayer on 2 and try and sort of negate Bill's potential flow of cards here, but even just the Blossoms is just going to be absolutely fine. You don't really play it for the Jade this early. The Jade it generates is more of a nice bonus. Mainly, it's about ramping up into these key cards. Look at this now for Bill. Nourish into Aya, even has the Earthen Scales that won't really be used in the defensive manner a lot of the time in this matchup, more of just, to push a minion that bit of extra damage for trades.
So a couple of points real quick. Amnesiac played that Doomsayer there because he wanted to potentially start getting this Stonehill down, develop True Silver behind it, and use that combined power to deal with Bill's threats coming down on curve. If the 1-1 and the 2-2 from an expected Jade Blossom remained on the board, then he wouldn't have been able to start building this platform. Jade Druid would have snowballed. That's basically game at this point. But also, he took a Dread Corsair off his Stonehill Defender instead of the Primordial Drake, and that sends a very clear signal that Amnesiac understands his win condition in this matchup, which is not just use your equalities and your weapons and Primordial Drake and Consecration to clear out all of Jade Druid's threats, because that is literally impossible. You cannot clear all of Jade Druid's threats because they have an infinite supply of them. So Amnesiac recognizes his win condition here is just trying to tempo out as best as he can can. Try and land Spike Ridge Steed by getting minions in play. That Dread Corsair was the perfect pickup to allow him to do that.
Yeah, especially because the Dread Corsair specifically has synergy with weapons, so it could go True Silver, remove a minion, Dread Corsair, same turn.
Right.
That's exactly the kind of turn you want versus this Jade Druid. On wtybill side, though, he's just has all the value he could need at this moment in time. Has Aya to start making these Jades even bigger, already at a 4 now. Just going to soak up a hit from the True Silver. Spike Ridge is going to land with the coin, though, so that is very, very important.
And it was a tough turn. I think Amnesiac's consideration there, he would like to hold on to the coin just a little bit if he could. You know, double 8-drop in hand means coin 8 into 8 is something that he'd really be looking at doing. But his alternative play that turn was just to drop Harrison, make the trades as he saw them. But then you have to ask the question, against any realistic Druid removal at this point, do I then keep a board next turn to be able to land Steed? The answer was a pretty clear no if there was something as simple as Swipe coming down. So jams that Spike Ridge Steed, but what an answer that has been found by wtybill.
Yeah, the Black Knight's going to clear up the Spike Ridge Steed, or at least the Stonehill, and then the Earthen Scales is going to line up perfectly. As I mentioned straight away, you know, this Earthen Scales is not I'll gain armor so I don't die versus this list. It's can I make a minion stickier or get stronger trades? This is exactly the kind of value you want. Just clean up that whole Spike Ridge Steed mess, and now there's only a 3/3 on the board, and there's nothing really great to trade into. It can go into Aya, but I believe that'll be a 5/5 on the board then for the Jade.
4/4 at least, it might be 5.
I think he killed the 4/4 with the True Silver.
You're right, yeah,
so.
he did. But like just looking at Amnesiac's reactions to this situation, obviously that is a real bad beat, the Black Knight coming off the top and hitting the Spike Ridge Steed. But his reaction was just a small nod. He understands, first and foremost, we've been talking about it a lot in the intro, he's mentally in the right place to be able to react to this. But secondly, I think also just coming out with these tame reactions is the fact that he knows Jade Druid is finding a win against his lineup. He can take the L in this game and just say, all right, you know, Jade Druid did its job. That wasn't an important matchup. I need to focus on beating some of these other control decks that maybe I can just try and outvalue in the late game.
Exactly. Due to the nature of Conquest, once a deck has won, it will not be played anymore in the series, so he can just take the loss. And also, the deck lists are open to all the players as well, so it's not as if he didn't know Black Knight was available. And there's wtybill's worst nightmare. The hydrologist.
Yeah,
He has none of the tools ready.
It is a singular hungry crab that he has teched into this Jade Druid, so he hasn't drawn it just yet. And the Eater of Secrets that I mentioned is in his Spirit Echo Shaman. So Amnesiac doesn't have to worry about too much about the big tech cards coming down to punish him, but it will be a consideration. But most importantly, the big concern here is that Hydro hero power, he's just already behind on board at that point and passing the initiative over to Bill. So the consideration of whether he can possibly win this game when committing premium removal like a Quality Consecration on a board this timid, and believe it or not, yes, this is a timid board against Jade Druid, and his answer is no. He's just going to have to face up to being behind for a couple of turns here, try and do some work with the secrets.
Yeah, the only chance Amnesiac realistically has is if he can get, you know, one big board clear, if wtybill kind of overextends onto the board. Is the Druid one big board clear and then go hard with, you know, like Tyrion, Ragnaros, and just try and just power out the next couple of turns. But even that is very, very difficult indeed.
So 9 damage in play, 13 from the swipe hitting face. Earthen Scales will connect for 14 as well. So if wtybill runs into no defensive options here, he does have lethal, the defensive option being Noble Sacrifice. And there it is exactly. Bill finds the lethal. That is going to be a quick 1-0 for wtybill in the context of how slow this series is likely to be. But as I mentioned several times, this is a win. It's 1/3 of the way there for Bill, but it's less than 1/3 of the work done because Jade Druid was always going to find a way in this series.
Yeah, it must be great to actually just get a win that easily. But as you said, it's going to be a little bit, you know, okay, there's the Jade Druid. I was pretty confident I was always going to get a win against this kind of controlling lineup. But the rest of the way is going to be the hard bit. Well, Amnesiac taking a loss early on, definitely pretty rough. But still plenty of this series to go. What other decks have we got left for Amnesiac here? He still has his Paladin, of course. He has the Echo Shaman, the Taunt Warrior, and the Dragon Priest. One of these is banned. We'll find out right now.
Is the Shaman, and unsurprisingly, yes, the Quest Rogue has gone down for Bill. So the dynamic here between these two decks is really interesting because I mentioned Bill has gone a little bit greedier, which in a nutshell would allow him to be favored in this series. You know, the addition of the N'Zoth in his Paladin along everything else, which I should just add a quick proviso. There is no Tyrion and no N'Zoth off on the list that we have submitted, but I did a quick count, and there's only 28 cards on there, and there is a Cairn Bloodhoof in his deck. So I'm assuming the missing 2 cards just cut off the bottom are the Tyrion and the N'Zoth. But in case I'm wrong, I'll just throw the hedge. But Bill should be favored just in terms of raw value, but it's those few little tech cards that he's put in that might just give him a real crippling draw when he needs it. You know, you're facing down a crucial draw. You need to hit a Tyrion. You need to hit your N'Zoth. You need to hit a big board clear. Oh, you draw Hungry Crab or Eater of Secrets. Like, that can be a huge punish for you when those tech cards whiff. So I'm really interested in how this dynamic is going to play out.
Yeah, no doubt there's a chance of whiffing hard. And it's almost like skipping a turn. But yeah, we talked a lot about Amnesiac's mindset into this tournament. Yes, he's took an early loss, but I think coming into this, he was pretty relaxed overall and just fully prepared for it. So yeah, wtybill there, just getting ready. And Amnesiac even going for the pre-game selfie. Can't argue with that. Look at that selfie game on point. wtybill's like, what do you want? We're supposed to play against each other. He's like, oh, selfie. Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, of course, that makes sense. That's just correct. It's just the line. You got to farm those social media likes.
Yeah, we checked out his Twitter earlier, right? You know, words of wisdom combined with selfies. Truly the Twitter account of a 16-year-old professional Hearthstone player.
Sounds about right. But yeah, Amnesiac, the young Savage, as he is referred to in countries that don't speak properly. That's just not an accent. I don't know where that came from.
The young Savage that he is never referred to.
Yeah, he's going to queue up the Dragon Priest now, going up against the Spirit Echo Shaman. And this is a matchup I have seen played out a little bit, and it feels strong to me for the Dragon Priest because the Spirit Echo Shaman really doesn't do anything except try to straight up outvalue the opponent, and it's very, very hard to outvalue Dragon Priests. They are just essentially the king of value. The only way I've seen success for Spirit Echo Shaman in this matchup is if they can really ramp the Jades, like super quick, but because the package is just a little bit light in the deck overall, it's very hard to do that. And wtybill, I believe, has actually cut out one of the Jade cards in favor of that Eater of Secrets that he's playing in this deck as well, which of course is a massive whiff against Dragon Priest.
Yeah, and in terms of value overall, even Amnesiac's deck of Dragon Priest is high value in itself. We see double Glimmerroot available, so we can already start applying some pressure and picking the options of the cards. I'm going to take a wild stab at Maelstrom Portal with this choice.
A wild stab. Curious Glimmerroot is 100% hit rate in this tournament, Raven. It's revealed deck lists. If you play,
you forgot. It's not like they've got the deck list in front of them.
If you play a Glimmerroot in this tournament and you pick wrong, you should retire in shame.
Well, okay, well, let's keep a close eye on the Glimmerroot plays this tournament then, because we might see some players for the last time in this playoffs. But yeah, Glimmerroot going to come out. Maelstrom Portal, nothing too crazy for Amnesiac. But also, as I was saying as well, that, the Song Stealer can potentially negate a key Echo target as well. Right. A Jade Generation Echo target, or even as we can see, White Eyes from wtybill. If that is silenced and then just easily removed, you are in a good place because they no longer have a 10-10 and also the potential of getting it back later on.
Yeah, Amnesiac just considering the options this turn. Second Glimmerroot is, of course, available, which will guarantee him another card from wtybill's deck as long as he's on point. But he's just going to go ahead and fire off the Maelstrom here and make sure this board does not start to snowball, because he needs to keep an eye on this board state from very early on. So I like this recognition, because if the board state does just spread into the position where there's just a few annoying minions hanging around on the board, that's when you start to offer Spirit Echo value to your opponent. And that's what Amnesiac has to try and deny for as long as possible, while he's really ramping into his powerful turns where he can start to generate huge value off Draconid Operatives.
Yeah, Jade Lightning going to be used to clear up this Glimmerroot here, and in terms of value as well, Devolve just doesn't really get there against Dragon Priest, because you're looking at, 5 drops, 4 drops, 6 drops, and you're like, oh, well, devolving these, maybe it helps a little bit, but a lot of the time you're devolving into just as beefy style minions, and the minions that Priest plays often does their job on the turn they play them, right? There's a lot of battle cries in the deck,
right,
as opposed to lasting minions that you can negate live values from.
Yeah, it's not quite the world of Dragon Priest pre-Ungoro, pre-standard rotation, where basically every minion they played had premium stats for the mana cost. Yeah. So if you devolved it, you were pretty much getting the job done pretty often. But now sure, there's Draconid Operative, which does still have premium stats despite its insane upside for some reason. But beyond that, there are a couple more utility minions, these 3/3s and 1/3s that you see hanging around on the board right now, but picks up a Hex from the second Glimmerroot, which is actually a really big deal for Amnesiac. That's definitely a premium card to be offered from that Glimmerroot.
Especially when Ayers just hit the board as well. It's going to be a great target just to clean up with Hex here.
And you see, wtybill, we might have sold him a little bit short here by talking about Amnesiac so heavily, but he does have championship pedigree. I think actually Bill and Amnesiac were at the same championship events, 2016 winter, and you can see there he is tied with, I believe, Chucky for the fastest rate to legend in 114 games, I believe. And Raven, as we both know, fastest win rate to legend is actually a huge indicator of player skill.
Yes, 100%. Chucky, an absolutely amazing player. And, no doubt he's high, especially with his arena run. I mean, Frodan was talking about it before, right? Like, anything he applies his mind to is performing very well. This Hex, though, can be absolutely fantastic, and not really much of a response from Bill there. Just, yeah, okay, you just hexed my Aya. Okay, I can deal with this. I would look a little bit more upset if it was me, personally, especially with now double Spirit Echo available in hand for Bill, but no board to even think about it, and not enough mana to combine anything great at the moment. I think the story of this game is going to be wtybill just holding off the board or the aggression from Amnesiac just to get that one value echo turn and then hope to snowball off the back of that.
And I mentioned if the Spirit Shaman was going to find a way in this game, they have to get a good Jade start. They have to ramp Jades quickly. And Bill has found 4/4 Jades already on turn 6, which is very, very solid. And ramping Jades in this deck is so important because not only is it such great board control, such great board presence, and such great pressure, but the quicker you ramp your Jades, the more oppressive your Spirit Echoes become more quickly, because you just naturally get bigger minions on the board to then Spirit Echo. You get another Activator back to your hand. That Activator is then jamming a 6/6 instead of a 3/3. The Jade Golem that you echo at the same time is just going to be bigger when that comes back to your hand. So there's such huge upside in getting off to these really quick starts with the Spirit Echo Shaman.
Yeah, a second Hex now picked up from Amnesiac means he just has so much extra spot removal. Priest has Pain, Death, the Bookworms as well, even the Dragonfire Potion to just clear out the board. But now add on that 2 Hexes, it's going to be absolutely amazing versus this deck of Bill.
And crucially, Hex denies a Spirit Echo as well.
Yeah.
It denies the Death Rattle. And I think you mentioned Bill's reaction when he got his Aya hexed. Honestly, I think he was fine with that. He's like, okay, I mean, that's a Spirit Echo minion that I get to go off later, potentially on a White Eyes, on a Jade Chieftain. But now the second Hex being picked up for Amnesiac.
Reaction time.
Now we'll see whether wtybill is slightly perturbed at these potential pulls from Amnesiac's Glimmer Roots and Draconid Operatives.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about the lineups coming into this match, as we will do in most matches, and while waiting for Amnesiac to decide, we can check out how he approaches building a lineup for a tournament.
The way we usually make a lineup is we look at the top win rates from the Vicious Syndicate Data Reaper, which gives us sort of a good baseline. And then a good way to do it basically is just to find decks that work well with a common ban. So if you have 4 decks that have hypothetical 80% win rates and they're all 10% against Warrior, well, if you put those together and ban Warrior, that's a pretty good lineup. So that's the basic theory that goes into building a lineup.
One word that was very important to me there is we. The way we build a lineup.
Yes.
Not a lot of good players build a lineup on their own.
And you will notice this lineup that Amnesiac is bringing, the Spirit Shaman, Control Pally, Taunt Warrior, Dragon Priest, these 120 cards are shared by several other players in this tournament who are that we that Amnesiac was referring to. But yeah, I like that explanation. It sounds very, very simple when Amnesiac puts it like that. There is a certain level of complexity that comes in, that it's not quite as easy as he makes it sound there. Like, oh yeah, I just have 4 80% win rate decks if I ban Warrior. Well, yeah, sweet. Like, if that was the case every time, building lineups would be very straightforward.
Yeah, and we did see in that previous turn that the Hex was used to negate the White Eyes effectively just straight out of the game. And now the N'Zoth draw. I feel like the draws are just like kicking Bill while he's down to a certain extent now, because now Aya and White Eyes both gone due to Amnesiac effectively sort of mimicking cards from his opponent's deck with this Dragon Priest. And it's what the deck excels at. It's the true power, I believe, of the Dragon Priest, and be able to just generate so much value. And also, the hidden edge of just playing with cards from your opponent's deck is absolutely insane.
And that's the choice Amnesiac has had to make, right? Like, he can use his hexes to deny the Spirit Echo value, or he can use his hexes to deny the N'Zoth value. Because as I mentioned, Bill is just adding that extra level of greed to these control decks react by jamming N'Zoth in his Shaman, jamming N'Zoth in his Paladin. Amnesiac does not have those. Amnesiac's Shaman deck relies much more purely on getting Spirit Echo value. So Amnesiac using those hexes very intelligently, saying that Spirit Echo feels like a card I can beat. You know, I have a couple of AoEs that can sweep these minions out. If the N'Zoth board comes down, starts resurrecting White Eyes, Storm Guardians go in the deck, like that's when things are going to get carried away.
Yeah, and just look at the difference in hands here. Like, look at wtybill to start off with. A lot of reactive cards, Spirit Echoes as well. Stonehill Defender, maybe you can fish a White Eyes back again just to start, you know, like go in for this N'Zoth play. But then look at the other side of the board. Amnesiac still has, you know, Potion of Madness, not too crazy, but Ysera, he's already used 2 Hex, Primordial Drake, another Draconid Operative, Shadow Visions to fish another spell, a Song Stealer to deal with a Spirit Echo target. All the value in the world, and now he has what I would normally refer to as a board clear in terms of Ysera Awakens, but now it's just 5 damage burst, the way I'm looking at it.
There is the White Eyes, though. Does pick it up. He's going to need it. He needs some sort of value engine this game, so White Eyes is right up his street in this position, but I love this play from Amnesiac. You know, he just jammed Ysera down. He hadn't really seen any of the clean answers yet, so, you know, Ysera gets hexed. Sure, that seems like it might be likely to happen, so why did he do it? Well, look at the board position that he's left himself in. If wtybill has to spend his turn hexing that Ysera this turn, then Amnesiac just gets to continue to snowball on his own terms.
Yeah, a lot of the time playing Ysera on its own onto an empty board is great. If it's answered, it's a little bit upsetting. You play Ysera when you've already got the board, they have nothing. Absolutely horrendous. And Amnesiac, more and more value. Just picking even more legendary dragons up. And Nixia going to be the combo of an 8/8 and effectively a board fill going in no matter what happens. Is wtybill with the Shaman deck does play cards, as you can see, Volcano and some more board clears, you know, combined with the Devolve as well. So he can clear out this board once or twice, but Amnesiac just has even more value. Still has an Operative that's going to come down this turn by the looks of things.
Yeah, an Operative coming down here seems like a strong play to me because firstly, it pushes the amount of health on board way out of range of what Volcano would be able to do. Secondly, even if there was some kind of, you know, Devolve Volcano combination to be able to clear this out, well, fine. Like, all of these cards that I played this turn, the Historian and the Draconid Operative, have just responded with value in my hands. You can go ahead and spend your whole turn AoEing this board. I have no problem with that. I'm just going to jam it.
Yeah, and we see now I think a common thing we'll see in this tournament, the power of Dragon Priest in this tournament metagame as a whole. It feels like every single card they play, they gain a card back anyway. And in value matchups, that's going to be key. But speaking of value, there's still 2 more White Eyes on the board.
There are indeed. Amnesiac can silence one of them to deny the threat of the Storm Guardian going into the deck. He does also have Ysera Awakens to clear them out. That would only allow him to push 8 to face with the minions that would survive. So he's a little bit short of lethal in that regard. Shadow Vision's not really going to pick him up anything too powerful in this situation, although a Shadow of Death would help him push through. So it's really up to him now. He needs to set his stall out and say, okay, this is an annoying board for me to deal with in this board state. Can I deal with this board, push through damage, and then if my opponent just jams N'Zoth next turn, can I kill him with Ysera Awakens?
Yeah, well, I think that's the key. Because there's Dragonfire Potion available, Dragonfire clears the board. Yes, you know, you lose the Grunt and the Nether Spite and the Hex, but you keep your dragons on full health, which means then you can Ysera Awakens afterwards.
Yeah,
the dragons don't die, and you push for the extra damage.
Dragonfire Potion, you push through, you push the 8, that puts wtybill at 13, which means if N'Zoth is played, Awakens comes down, deals 5 to Bill, that puts him at 8, and then, hey, guess what? We have got more than 8 damage pushing through on the board. This is a great setup. I called it out. You saw the lines. Amnesiac saw the lines. This is going to be squaring up the series now for Amnesiac.
Yeah, a full setup based on that Ysera play. And again, let's just think about the value of this Dragon deck. Ysera was not in the deck. It was discovered. And then Amnesiac managed to get the Ysera Awakens, which then completely altered the game plan and allowed for this play to happen. And frankly, wtybill just blown out in this game completely. But something, as I said, I expect to see a lot in this tournament from any player who's brought Dragon Priest. An amazing deck to go against Control.
Yeah, that matchup just feels brutal. Bill just even did have the quick Jade start that I talked about, getting up to, I think, 4/4 Jade Golems on turn 6 was what I called out. Just wasn't able to grip a board. That's the problem. Like, Dragon Priest is able to generate value off cards like Draconid Operative, which are insane on the board. You're actually gaining tempo as
unfair.
you're gaining value. It is actually unfair. Like, Priest was a dumpster class when Draconid Operative was released. Now Priest is actually very, very playable. You start to get this feeling that, like, Draconid Operative is just way too strong. But, you know, Anduin needs some toys every now and again. He can't be the dumpster guy forever.
Yeah, and Amnesiac taking the win there versus wtybill might be the start of a victory in this series, as he didn't have the best of winter seasons, but he's definitely feeling good about his chances now.
Thinking back to winter playoffs, I'm actually pretty happy with how things went down. I was really happy to make it out of the Swish step bracket. I was proud of that.
We have Amnesiac versus Frozen.
Possibly the biggest game that we have in this top 8. It's a match between two of North America's most high-profile players.
It was pretty unfortunate that I had to play against Frozen because we were definitely the 2 best players in top 8.
That is it. Amnesiac is going to have to wait one more season at least. It's going to be Frozen who's going to the Bahamas.
When I realized I lost, I was pretty sad. I'm a pretty competitive person, so it's pretty rough to come up short like that.
Amnesiac was so close, said he was going to do it, and almost got there.
If I were to meet Frozen in top 8 again, I'd be really mad if I lost because he's already qualified for the World Championships. I mean, I gave him his last time, but how many times are you really going to beat Amnesiac? Like, let's be real. Looking forward to the spring playoffs. I care about pretty much every tournament equally, so I'm just going to do my best, and let's be real. Everyone knows I'm going to win.
He knows how good he is. He's not afraid to say it. He's not afraid to put pressure on himself with some of his statements because he knows he has the mentality to live up for it.
When it comes to having haters, I really don't blame them because at the end of the day, I am an overconfident kid, but I back it up with some of the best results in the world, so we kind of just roll with the punches. Making it back to the World Championship has been my goal all year. Winning at this spring playoffs and qualifying to go to Shanghai, I could promise that I would put in 100% effort and show up ready to win in China.
He does pile a lot of pressure on himself, not looking too
He's not feeling the
energetic.
pressure right now.
Yeah.
He's definitely not feeling that pressure right now, Raven.
He's just laid back, chilling, getting ready to go into his game. And he talked a lot about... Now he's just hugging his cat.
He's trying to hug us. It's all right.
We love you too, Amnesiac.
It's all right, Will. We're here for you. We'll hold you, buddy. We got you.
And he did mention as well, you know, going up against Frozen, he felt bad losing and hitting someone he felt, you know, potentially his equal in the Americas region. And there is, maybe not quite.
I was going to say, does Amnesiac really believe that anyone is his equal?
George C.
That's fair point.
But yeah, and there's actually just a really good chance we could see Amnesiac versus Frozen in this Swiss. You know, Frozen is playing, as Amnesiac mentioned, even though he's already qualified. Similar to, you know, Steinudachi, for example, in EU. He's still playing the tournament, and we could see that a little bit later on, so that would be amazing if it happens. But this series is 1-1, Amnesiac versus wtybill. Amnesiac locking in the Paladin again. wtybill just hitting this Shaman, and we were talking about to the end of the last game about how rough that matchup looked. And for me personally, with this deck, that's my frustration with it overall. Hey, Spirit Echoes, 2 of, were just sat in hand all game. They did actually nothing, and getting that value is so difficult without already being ahead. It's a very, like, weird deck to try and manage against certain matchups, specifically, you know, Dragon Priest. Anything that's remotely good versus Control, I feel, just destroys the Shaman list.
This is so huge. Before I kind of respond to what you're saying there about the deck, like, drawing double Hydrologist here early from Amnesiac is massive because it gives him the chance to play both of the secrets that will be generated and get value out of them way before wtybill is A, likely to have drawn his Ether of Secrets that's in this deck, and secondly, just, you know, before he even has mana available for it potentially. So he chose not to coin it out, which means the turn 4 play into the secret will be able to happen if he goes for it on the following turn. But still, those early Hydrologists are minimizing the chances of Amnesiac getting hit by that one-off tech card in Bill's list. But on the Shaman subject, I totally agree with you. You're playing inefficient minions early on. You see a 1/4 on the board that he just paid 3 mana for. You're pressing Totem a great deal to try and get value out of things from below that you pick up off Stonehill Defender, for example. You don't have Flame Tongue Totem to try and grab a board early on. So how are you just ever building a board state that Spirit Echo lands on? It's just such a late game card because you have to get a thing from below all the way down to 0 mana.
The fact it's 3
Playing
mana
it with
as
a
well,
Jade
right?
Chieftain, right? Exactly. So it's such a slow deck to operate that even other control decks can often find ways to make the aggressive push against that deck, exactly like we saw Amnesiac doing in the previous game with the Dragon Priest.
Yeah, and Claw's going to help just clear up this small board from Amnesiac here. And there is the getaway. Kodo was chosen as the secret earlier from the first Hydrologist. And this is almost just the overall MVP secret at the moment because just the base value of it is absolutely insane. In a deck where you're playing a lot of cards that generate value by playing them themselves, even just Burn Bristle, for example, it takes double trades because of the Divine Shield potentially, and then you get it back to just replay. Getaway Kodo, absolutely amazing as an all-rounder, but never mind.
Hashtag
Secret.
Got him.
Yeah. That was actually crazy because Eater of Secrets, because it gains a buff from the secret as well, it's not as if you're playing a truly bad minion to kill a secret. You actually, look at it, it's a 3/5 on 4. Well, with 4 mana, should I say, not on 4.
Yeah.
Because the Overload, but that isn't actually terrible as a minion itself, even just sniping one secret.
It also just killed a Wicker Flame Burn Bristle, essentially, by destroying the Getaway Kodo as well.
Yeah.
So it's pretty high value. I mean, I think Eater of Secrets is absolute dumpster tech that you should never put in your deck, but like, that's not because when it hits it isn't powerful. It's because of how completely miserable it is in every other situation.
Amnesiac going to be able to clear this Eater up, though, with the True Silver, getting the Revenge, and just leaving the Pyro and the Hydro on the board now. Did need to order it like that so he could equip the secret as well. It's not as if he took extra damage on the Hydro as a misplay in any way. Second Claws, though. This sort of start is actually working wonders for wtybill. Being able to just like subtly creep those Jades up slowly, but using the weapon to just leverage that, to stop Amnesiac battling for the board early on, which is frankly where he fell behind in the previous game.
Yep. And now just falling behind on the board is Amnesiac on a turn that is crucial that you don't do so because he just needed minions to stick this turn to be able to potentially land Spike Ridge Steed. Spike Ridge becomes very, very complicated with Pyromancer on board as opposed to how you want to do this. But you saw him pick and play Redemption on the previous turn for exactly this scenario. He wanted to increase his chances of a minion sticking as much as he possibly could so that he could jam this Spike Ridge on curve, because Spike Ridge Steed landing on 6 with charge on an existing minion that's already in play, so powerful.
Yeah, this turn was going to be a tough call from wtybill as well because Pyro, just directly kills this White Eyes. Just 100% the White Eyes dies.
Yep.
He could have hexed it, but looking at Amnesiac's hand, hex on this 6 mana buff, Ragnaros, Tyrion, 2 Drakes.
Yep.
Okay, I can deal with this. But wtybill just chose to let the trade happen and cycle that 10/10 into the deck.
Yeah, you don't want to be hexing the Spike Ridge Steed in this matchup. You generally want to be devolving the Spike Ridge Steed in this matchup. It's why often you'll see players try and get something hexed first and then jam the Spike Ridge Steed on the Hex Frog, because the Hex Frog can't be devolved. This is something This is something that I have pointed out a couple of times, both on Global Games and HCT broadcasts over a couple of weeks. And apparently my own teammate, Super JJ, does not listen to my casting enough to know that.
But go and watch his response to that happening, because it was glorious, if I do say so myself. Now wtybill doesn't have a high-value board for Spirit Echoes, but had a board, should I say, as there's Drake #1 from Amnesiac. And this is just a pain of a minion to deal with from your opponent, especially when Drake gets the value of clearing even just a reasonable chunk of the board in itself. Just a 4/8 doesn't look menacing in itself, but it's so hard to plow through. And we can see, a second one, a Tyrion, a Ragnaros. There's only 1 Hex and a Volcano so far in wtybill's hand in. Is this going to be the Spirit Echo's turn? I think it has to be.
Look like it. Not the best value in the world, just picking up a 5/5 and a 3/3 alongside the relatively inconsequential totem as well. So, but I think wtybill there was reticent of what we saw happen in the previous game, where he just died with 2 Spirit Echoes in hand. If you have a deck that is built around a particular card or one particular, board clear, tech card, powerful play that you have available in your deck, and you die with it in your hand, that means one of 2 things. things. That either means that card's too greedy and it needs to go out in the first place, or it means you need to play it quicker. You need to play it for less value. You need to play looser with that card. Bill has reacted appropriately and is doing exactly that in the follow-up.
That's something we do see a lot in series as well. You know, the development of just the players and learning process within a singular series, never mind a tournament run or even a whole year of Hearthstone itself. wtybill has a few options now. Again, Ragnaros is just another Hex target. The fact that Rag hit the Drake was absolutely huge, because it means that now the thing from below doesn't kill it, as it was lined up to make a trade next turn.
Volcano is a possibility here. I believe if he trades in, so there is 16, 21, 22 health on the board right now. If he trades in, that takes off 9, so goes down to 13. So there's a potential for him to be able to do that if he wants to. And that it does look like it's going to be the play. Just take the board clear, refresh these minions back to hand. Thing from below will be more than cheap enough to be able to slam down again here if he wants to. So just making sure he was got maximum value out of Volcano there, really, answering 2 huge threats with a single Volcano. And essentially, although he killed some of his own minions, because they had Spirit Echo on, he hasn't really suffered any net loss on that front, and is now able to reload ahead of the board now.
Yeah, suddenly even a mediocre level of Spirit Echoes that we saw just then, getting the value, it's just reset the board, as you said, got rid of the big minions, and most importantly, set himself up to build on this board for future turns. A lot of the time with this deck, it stumbles when the board is wiped every turn, because they don't have good minions to battle for the board on their own. It's all about just building the pressure, building the power. As Harrison comes down now, chips the final durability of the claws, gets additional draw from Amnesiac. Nothing too fancy. Is there a world where you just take Rathion and you just want an additional cycle?
Just to draw a card, it's reasonable, I guess.
How good is Wicker Flame versus this specific deck, right? It's okay.
I mean, I think you'd still love to play a Wicker Flame on turn 3, for example, but it's more the question of, like, how good is a Wicker Flame on turn 10? So yeah, Rathion seems reasonable, but the more interesting decision for me this turn is whether it's Hero Power or whether it's Doomsayer, because the Doomsayer could have come down in a situation where both players would be relatively happy, letting it go off in terms of value.
Just a gentleman's agreement.
Yeah, the board state is fairly even right now, but crucially, it would mean that Amnesiac would have an entire free turn of tempo to develop through with a Tyrion if he wanted to.
Yeah, I think the reason for holding it back here for Amnesiac is that he has Equality, Consecrate. You know, he has ways to just wipe a board, so why not wipe an even bigger board, then play Doomsayer and gain that kind of tempo later game? Because if you do it later in the game and get more value, you probably just win at that point.
Totally agree. That was the point that I was going to lead to as well. He also just has Equality Primordial Drake, which essentially does the same thing, but an entire turn quicker. That's the insane power of that play. When you go Equality Consecrate Doomsayer, you stop your opponent being able to play anything, and then you drop a huge minion on the next turn. When you Equality Primordial Drake, you do both of those turns in one turn. You clear the board, and you've dropped your huge minion behind it. That's exactly what Amnesiac's going to go for. He could have gone Equality, Consecration, Doomsayer, and then gone with the Tyrion next turn, but he's played no real soft check for Hex or anything like that in this game so far. So just this 4-8 dominating the board now gives wtybill at least a little nudge as to whether that Hex is there. The Hex does come out. Amnesiac has just set him up and knocked him down. Tyrion can now come out and potentially contest this board, although that means that the Manatide Totem will be able to get repeated value.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one as well. The Manatide is just a pain to deal with in the fact that it doesn't actually it's indirectly killing you, basically, because it generates additional cards for your opponent. Sometimes you can ignore it when your opponent's almost got a full hand anyway, and you're like, well, what's one more card going to do?
Right.
But at this point, wtybill, before the Manatide tick, just on 2 cards in hand versus all the value in the world from Amnesiac's side of the board is going to be rough, and he is, in fact, not going for the Tyrion this turn.
Went for Ivory Knight, looking for an answer for the Manatide Totem, potentially. He did have double Consecrate to deal with it, but that is a completely miserable play that he would not have even considered as viable, but nothing great off the Ivory Knight here. Just a 3rd Consecration being spoiled for choice. Forbidden Healing, not exactly a huge value card in this matchup. Can be very, very clutch in others, but just the 3rd Consecration is what he ends up with.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? It's pretty good against totems.
Sure.
At this moment in time with your opponent on so few cards, there is a chance that a lot of it is just going to be posturing onto the board, just trying to build up that board, try and build up some small value, and then go hard later with the Spirit Echoes. Doomsayer is going to come down now, and it's going to be a little bit awkward here. wtybill just realizing that, yeah, I just need more cards. I need to cycle through my deck, get some of these stronger, more powerful cards into the game. So this Thanos is going to be sacrificed for an additional 2 cards with the help of that Mana Tide this turn.
No second Hex just yet, though. Is Amnesiac going to follow this plan that he set up a couple of turns ago and drop the Tyrion? It's looking like a good turn for it, but the doubt will be creeping into your mind. It was such a clean play on the previous turns, but there was a Mana Tide contesting. Since then, what, 3? Now it'll be 4 off this draw. Extra cards have been drawn that could now be that second Hex.
About to find out. And it's not Hex. So, Devolve's okay.
It is.
Because it stops, most importantly, Devolve's kind of like Silence. It will stop the Tyrion generating an Ashbringer. Yep. But Tyrion is an 8-drop, and creating just a 7-drop is still a little bit scary in itself. And one of the issues is that wtybill might actually just play a board this turn that Tyrion doesn't even come close to dying to, and then devolve the turn after when he can make some trades.
Yeah, 7-drops aren't really that great in terms of overall average stats. Like, the vanilla test for a 7-drop is, War Golem, it's a 7/7.
Just 1 more damage than Tyrion?
Right, but the thing is, there's so many cards that are actually below that on pure stats when you look at, your Baron Geddons and all those kind of things, but you have a very good chance of at least evolving it into something that has more power, that hits you hard for a couple of turns, which could be a big problem, but wtybill would be just as scared of that Ashbringer coming down, because if he just buffs it up by 1 point of attack and the Ashbringer just connects 3 turns, if he doesn't devolve it, then the Ashbringer is going to end up doing so much more work.
Yeah, and this is generally not the kind of N'Zoth you normally want with this deck. You really want to Spirit Echoes those Death Rattles, play them multiple times, and maybe even Stonehill into an additional White Eyes, get it played, but this just needs must here for Bill, to be honest. Just needed to get something on the board and then to build in potentially that Devolve next turn. Not tapping the shield in any way means that Tyrion just will not die unless there's a Force Kill, but Force Kill isn't really available here for Amnesiac.
This turn's actually very awkward. Like, the N'Zoth is so poor that it doesn't even feel like it's worth your second equality, but at the same time, it is almost his ultimate late-game push. So if your opponent was willing to N'Zoth for this little value, maybe you're willing to equality for this little value as well. But Amnesiac just goes ahead and drops the Rathian. He did have the opportunity to double Consecrate and trade the 1/1 through the White Eyes if he wanted to use his Consecrations to really set up an aggressive push for himself. That would deal 4 damage from the Conks and allow his Tyrion to connect with face if he wanted to start going down that line, but a little bit ambitious. Amnesiac is just going to sit back and just play this out. Plain and simple, but the Storm Guardian now been drawn immediately.
I hate when people do this to me. I've had this on like turn 5 and turn 6 before. It's horrible.
I mean, that just feels bad.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be the slightly better choice here, just going a little bit wider onto the board, generating these Jades, and also just having a Death Rattle available. Pretty sure wtybill would have really liked a Spirit Echoes that turn, especially with N'Zoth living. That would have been absolutely huge.
It would. And Amnesiac with this Kodo in hand as well would love to be hitting his Peacekeepers right now, just to be able to just smash some of these huge minions off the board, because once his second equality is gone, he understands what that means for the texture of the matchup. He knows that once his second equality is used, Bill will just feel free to vomit his entire hand onto the board as quickly as he can. So he doesn't want to use that second equality purely for the fear equity that it represents. He knows that as long as that second equality is in his hand or in his deck from Bill's perspective, that actually buys him more time, because wtybill has to play more passively.
Yeah.
So his lack of alternative removals with things like Outdoor Peacekeeper Stampeding Kodo is meaning that he may have to throw this out a little bit sooner than he might like to, although it feels like he can just squeeze a couple of extra turns out. No, he disagrees. He's going to go ahead and just drop the board clear right now.
Okay, is he actually... Oh, he's going to use the Spite Ridge, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, he's going to buff the Tyrion, keep the Tyrion alive, still clear the board, minus the Jade that's going to be spawned, of course, which is going to be a... What was that, 5/5? Wow. Tyrion still lives, just in time for Hex.
Ooh.
Maybe you would have preferred the Tyrion dying at this point. Very difficult to play around the second Hex, though.
And Hex really just to kill an Ashbringer at that point. The 8-1 Tyrion had pretty much done its job in terms of getting value out of the body itself. So that Hex was used entirely to deny that Ashbringer. Remember, Amnesiac not running N'Zoths in his version of this deck. And now the Aldor Kodo is going to only be a 50-50 on the 1-6, but either way, it allows him to Kodo for some kind of relative value. Does get the low end of the 50-50, but still, the 1-6 has been neutralized still.
Yeah, the only important factor here for the Jade Living is it's actually just a Bear Spirit Echoes target. Because it'll come back as a 6-6, so that was, potentially very important, actually, in terms of the value game for Amnesiac here. But see, the Storm Guardian's going to come down now. Everything seems to be lining up for Bill. Straight after Aldor, you get the Storm Guardian. Tyrion gets buffed and lives, you draw Hex. Everything seems to be just about lining up to be able to edge out this game. Stonehill not playing anything too crazy for Amnesiac, but Sunwalker's still not terrible, especially because you've seen the Hexes now.
Truth is my shield.
Sunwalker about the best he can do, but this triple consecration hand is just not getting him anywhere. And Bill here is representing, 18 damage on board that he could theoretically connect all to face this turn with devolving the taunts out of the way, but just a little bit short of lethal still, so he's going to continue on marching down the value train. wtybill in very comfortable control of this matchup as it stands.
Yeah, and going all the way back to the Ivory Knight turn, there was a redemption on offer. And it was into a turn that Amnesiac was likely to play Tyrion and Redemption as well. I wonder whether that was more of a potential value pick. Obviously, Redemption is no getaway Kodo in terms of value.
Right.
But even if you Redemption a Primordial Drake, then suddenly there's a bit of an awkward 1 damage for wtybill to do, and you've gained a 4-1 after it, there's going to be some resources put into actually killing it off. Obviously, Hex would be a nightmare, but still, I do wonder how good this triple Consecrate is.
And it's not looking great right now. And it's worth mentioning as well, along those lines, that wtybill only plays 1 Maelstrom Portal in his list. So again, his ability to deal 1 damage is actually quite low after you've seen and Harrisoned already one of the J-Claws. So now Amnesiac is just going to have to start spraying out these consecrations and hoping that they can buy him enough time in this matchup. But Bill still has so much more gas available to him. The N'Zoth is gone. That ultimate win condition has been eliminated. But the Soggoth the Slitherer pickup is just yet another huge threat. Manatide Totem is going to potentially give him some gas over the coming turns as well. This is looking fantastic for Bill.
Yeah, the fact that the Storm Guardian's just still alive is a gigantic problem. Normally that minion either gets dealt with or you lose. And now the 1 Forbidden Healing in Amnesiac's deck is not really going to get him anywhere. He can clear this up now, minus the Soggoth, of course, with the double Consecrate, the extra one from the Ivory Knight Bill. Just a small nod is like, okay, you put 3 Consecrates in your deck. I was not expecting this. Although we did know that there was a spell from the Ivory Knight available. Oh, seems good. Only 5 cards in the deck now, so this Manatide might not see play this game.
Yeah, it seems unlikely. If it does see play, it seems unlikely that you really want to Spirit Echo it too badly. Of course, it doesn't make that much of a difference. If you're going to play it, you can always just not play the second one when it comes back to your hand. But it's not going to be a huge concern for Bill at this point. He's going to have to find a way to actually end this game, potentially, because he has been in such a dominant position over the last few turns, and he hasn't really pushed any face damage to capitalize on it. So he's obviously setting his stall out that he feels like he has the advantage in the fatigue race, and Amnesiac correctly recognizing that with the Kodos and the Drake drawn, that was just a free 4-6 body, because I don't think either of these players particularly wants to draw cards right now. The Spirit Echo is going to land on the Jade Chieftain, and I think that is a bottom right coming out from Amnesiac. He knows that is way too much value to contend with, and wtybill is going to go 2 games to 1 up. I said his lineup is just a little bit greedier, and maybe that's what we're seeing come to fruition now.
Yeah, maybe it is, and we see there exactly, we've kind of half dumpstered on Spirit Echoes a lot throughout the last couple of games, but that is why the Spirit Echoes deck is good, right?
Oh, and here's the thing, Control Paladin doesn't kill you ever, right? Control Paladin gives you all the time in the world. So in that matchup, all that stuff we said about you having to be proactive and build a board and then Spirit Echo it, that does not apply, because in that matchup, you can wait until turn 12, turn 14, get your Jade Chieftain, your 0 mana thing from below, smash Spirit Echo on all of it and just end the game. That can totally happen, but that is a facet of Control Paladin just never being able to generate any pressure on any other Hearthstone deck.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it as well. Even if Tyrion would have died and the Ashbringer was generated, it wouldn't have gone face. Like, it would have been used to just continue clear board. And also, even if it did, well, both players were pretty much full life all of that game.
I think Ashbringer could have connected all 3 times and Bill still would have had 13 health to spare or something.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
We even saw like Storm Guardian be used to clear minions because the second Spike Ridge potentially, you know, that's the kind of matchup that is where health just isn't important at all. It's just about controlling your opponent's resources and then your own, of course, and just keeping the board low enough to be manageable. But yeah, wtybill are gonna have his Paladin left. Someone need to get him some water.
He's good.
Cough. Okay.
He's good.
Just gonna ring through to whatever fireside he's at and be like, "Hey guys, can you sort this out?" But yeah, wtybill has the Paladin of his left, and from what we've seen, this is the N'Zoth Paladin we mentioned a little bit earlier. I looked down the list and was like, "Wow, he's playing Cairn and no Tyrion. Interesting." And then it's like, "Oh, no N'Zoth either. Okay." We've got plenty of other matches being played throughout this Swiss. All the matches go on at the same time throughout the round as well. So we can see VCT versus VLPS. VCT is a player I've started watching stream.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Brazilian player, one of the best, very highly regarded. And then we have Chaki versus Leoric. Chaki on that Paladin. Looks like both players a little bit dicey there, as that's pretty low so far. And Sidonia versus Kenny. Just glance at these matches. What's in common? All control.
A great deal of control and a great deal of Paladin is going down. That's what we're seeing.
Yeah, I think that is the shape of this tournament so far, as the guys mentioned on the side set when they kicked off the show. The almost flip from EU to Americas for, you know, aggro, or at least half aggro, to just, let's all just play control decks and get comfortable as we move on to potentially the last game of this series. If wtybill can get a win, it's going to be Paladin on Paladin action.
And again, this is potentially a rough spot for Amnesiac. We will add the asterisk one more time that there are only 28 cards in the copy of wtybill's deck that we have in front of us. We're assuming the last 2 cards are Tyrion and N'Zoth, because anything else just seems like baffling nonsense. So if that
Deathwing and Deathwing.
Right, if that is the case, then Bill is running a N'Zoth Control Paladin with Elise the Trailblazer into Amnesiac's Control Paladin that has no N'Zoth and no Elise the Trailblazer, which means that Amnesiac is going to have to find a way to set up a win condition for himself in terms of pushing damage and being aggressive. And as I mentioned at the end of the previous game of this series, there is pretty much no worse deck in Hearthstone at trying to kill the opponent than Control Paladin.
Yeah, they sort of just like stare at each other, right?
Yeah.
No, we're just going to get this technical issue sorted out, guys. Sorry about that. We'll have a look at it. But yeah, you know, the Paladin deck's pretty much just like give each other harsh stares until one of them, like, I don't know, needs the bathroom or something and has to just leave the game due to that. They just try and outlast each other. It's kind of crazy to watch.
But it's a huge problem, right? Like, when you run Control Paladin into an aggressive deck, you don't necessarily have to kill them. You just have to run them out of stuff, get into a position where they can't kill you. They reach for the button at the bottom right, and then you win. But if you're playing against wtybill's even more greedy Control Paladin, you're not going to outvalue wtybill. So Amnesiac will be smart enough to know that and desperately try and cling to a line that helps him just push damage. But, like, where do you find that in this matchup?
Stonehill defenders, man. Get more Dread
to get all those massively aggressive taunt minions?
Yeah. So we are sorry, there is just a technical issue with the match, so we'll get right back into it as soon as possible for you guys. And that might be right now, actually. That was really quick. There we go. How good are we?
Production on point.
Yeah. So there we go. We did only miss a few of the turns. Looking at it, though, it was just a bit of back and forth. Nothing too crazy. And look already. wtybill, Elise in hand, N'Zoth available. And as well as Ken, when you have these cards ready to go, your game plan is set. It's, you know, there are games in which N'Zoth is the bottom card of your deck and you can't really get anywhere with it.
Yeah, just quickly to finalize the note, Big Bad J. Billy Beington has just run us a note that in fact it is Tyrion and N'Zoth as the last 2 cards in WTY Bill's deck.
Glad we got that right.
Yes.
We're pretty ashamed if we didn't.
So yeah, I mean, that just puts the exclamation point on everything that we've been talking about. It means everything that I've said about Amnesiac needing to set up a win condition for himself in terms of being aggressive is going to be the reality, and I just don't see a world where you can do that. So are we seeing Amnesiac potentially going down 0-1 in round 1 of Swiss here, Raven?
I think we could, especially because what's already available in WTY Bill's hand.
Boom.
You're saying, you know,
Can.
yeah, Amnesiac wants to try and get ahead early, try and pressure. There's a 2-2 and a 1-1 versus True Silvered Paladin and a 4-5 that generates a 4-5 when it dies.
Right.
Then there is Elise. Then there is Harrison, all already available to play as and when WTY Bill needs them, and all of their minions are basically just bigger than Amnesiacs. Yes, there's Tyrion and Primordial Drake available, but they're not going to come down till at quickest turn 7 here. WTY Bill could just run Amnesiac over. At this point, though, it is good to note that Amnesiac does have Equality and Consecrate or Pyromancer. So there is an emergency switch to buy in maybe the 1 turn he needs for the Primordial Drake to come down, for the Tyrion to come down, to start fighting back. But the fact that N'Zoth is available, the fact that there's going to be a pack in the deck from Elise so quickly, it's looking pretty grim, I'm going to be honest.
So Outdoor Kodo is the first thing that leaps out at me here, because that is one of the only huge tempo pushes that this deck can make, right? Like, if your opponent just slams an 8-drop, a Raglight Lord or a Tyrion, and you just Outdoor Kodo it and just keep pushing, that can bank you some damage, right? That's a board state that can really push through. So that is a big tempo push that Amnesiac can make here, potentially even on turn 7, following it up with a Tyrion. To really push damage that way, or the other way around if he sees fit. You know, if it's Tyrion answered by Tyrion, then he can just Kodo through and start pushing damage. So there are rays of hope here for Amnesiac that I'm seeing develop in his hand. But as we mentioned, he needs to find a way, because if these aggressive pushes don't work out, cards like Elise, the Ivory Knight, the N'Zoth in hand for WTY Bill, Spike Ridge Steed picked up as well now, which is a nightmare for Paladins to answer cleanly, both halves of the body, then, I mean, WTY Bill's just going to run away with this.
Yeah, even the Ivory Knight as well. We talk about value cards, but Ivory Knight is also valuable and just a flex card as well. You need damage to finish the game? Sick. You know, there are Paladin cards that actually...
Blessed Champion.
Yeah, wait. If we see it, I'd love it. But there are cards that do that. If you need heals, because you've fallen behind a little bit on board, if you need board players, Ivory Knight can give you the opportunity to draw these, or generate, should I say, these cards, which means that WTY Bill, even ahead, has the flexibility to adjust and adapt to anything that Amnesiac does to try and claw back into this game.
So WTY Bill essentially valued his True Silver above the threat of a Spike Ridge Steed from his opponent this turn, which makes sense because, yeah, Amnesiac is getting to the point, has enough mana available now where he can just always land a Spike Ridge Steed on a minion that he plays in the same turn. So playing around that doesn't seem to make much sense. He'd rather hold on to the True Silver, get greater value out of that. But now, this is around the point in the game, and you can see the furrowed brow, the intense consecration.
We might see an intense
We
consecration.
may do. That may still happen, but concentration was the word that I was looking for on Amnesiac's face, as he recognizes if he does not grip an advantage now over the next 2 or 3 turns, it might just be too late for him.
Yeah. It's very important to note as well that a loss...
That is an intense consecration, Raven. Sorry,
I'll give you this one. I'll give you this one. It was pretty intense.
All right.
But a loss in the first round of Swiss is a nightmare. This is the main thing you need to avoid, as it's more than likely it will create worse tiebreakers, as you'll be paired down for the second round, and then so on, so on, so on.
Yeah.
So Amnesiac having a loss in this first round, this could just be the match that actually makes it so he doesn't get there. You know, like
he will have to go
heavy impact.
6-0 from this point. If he loses it, like, you don't get through as a 5-2 if you've lost round 1. We've seen that with Karakute in the past, missing out on tiebreakers because of her early losses. So if Amnesiac goes down early here, he's going to have to make a 6-0 run through the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, and this kind of play as well from WTY Bill, as we just get back to the game, is exactly what I was talking about. You know, yeah, Elise and Stonehill, great. What have you got to beat up Elise? You know, and then if you got something great, I have now Tarim, I have 2 Spike Ridged, then have N'Zoth just as the cherry on the top for if anything gets too dicey. He's already seen a Pyro and a Consecrate as well to help clear the board out. So you know there's 1 Consecrate and 1 Pyro down, so the equality combos in the deck are just lessened over time.
I just had a moment of value-induced shock as I realized that wtybill has the opportunity of a turn 10 Spike Ridge Steed plus Faceless Shambler available to him now.
That's all I've got for that.
Yeah. Gives you the shudders.
Yeah, this is a very intense moment. We've discussed the importance of not losing round 1 in the Swiss, and Amnesiac believes that nervousness and tense situations are not an excuse for misplay.
Reporting for duty.
I think when people watch me play, they either really want me to win or they really want me to lose. But I wouldn't really say that adds any pressure or affects how I perform. I don't think nervousness is a valid excuse for not playing your absolute best when you're playing for this much. So I take every tournament the same, and I don't really make any mistakes.
Skill's going to be key and has been key in this series overall, as Amnesiac's repeatedly been put in tough spots by wtybill, and now this is one scary Elise. It's a 7-5, very, very difficult to deal with. There is equality, but the fact that it's Spike Ridge is just upsetting.
And just take a quick look at what happens if it's not dealt with. Then the Faceless Shambler can start to come down, start to copy some intense stats. The Spike Ridge Steed being used already, it's going to just be absolutely brutal for Amnesiac if he doesn't find a way to deal, but he is going to go ahead and do it here, pairing it with the Aldor and the Spike Ridge Steed to be able to push through and value trade, and now this is Amnesiac's push. This is now finally him getting a grip on the board state, him pushing ahead. He needs to now consolidate this into 2, 3, 4, 5 more turns of pressure, but wtybill just has all the answers. The Spike Ridge Steed, Faceless Shambler.
More importantly, the things nightmares are made of, a Spike Ridge Steed riding a Spike Ridge Steed. What does that even look like, Blizzard?
That is not more important than the fact that there are 2 4-12 taunts on the board right now, Raven.
We will agree to disagree.
Fine, I'm right.
In your opinion. Yeah, this is looking pretty grim. Just the Shambler coming down now is a card that is not normally played and not normally picked, quite frankly, from Stonehill. But wtybill seeing the lines here and just saying these minions can simply get out of control, even if these get cleaned up. And this is a big ask of your opponent. Even if there's Tarim, there's N'Zoth, there's still True Silver, swing number 2, and another True Silver for, to leverage the board and beat the board back down if Amnesiac makes another push. Then there's Ivory Knight to just do whatever he needs it to do as well.
Yeah, I mean,
strong situation.
This investment into equality in terms of, actual raw resources from your deck is so low. Like, Spike Ridge Steeds are, not the highest value cards. They're things that you need to land a target on. They're kind of auxiliary cards to your game plan. And then the Faceless Shambler is just a pickup tech card off a Stonehill defender. So it's a free card generated by the deck that's now eating an equality from Amnesiac. And as you mentioned, Bill just still has all of these resources to keep going with in this spot.
Yeah, look at this though. To be fair, every single turn we're seeing from Amnesiac is just calculated. He cleared the board somehow. He did use the equality, but cleared the board, developed minions for himself as well. So he is potentially making the pushes. And now Blessed of Kings, one of the burst options, I'll call it, from the Ivory Knight.
It's also cute because he can potentially go equality first into Pyro into Blessing of Kings from this spot, and then just have like a huge Pyro sitting around on the board after clearing. Yeah, cute. Hashtag cute plays.
He's just mulling over his options. I feel like in his position, this is not a turn that you can allow the Doomsayer to live. Obviously, he had a very clean kill, so this is just straightforward, right?
Yeah.
The Kodo clears it up. But even if the kill wasn't that clean, I think you cannot submit the initiative onto the board to wtybill in Amnesiac's spot here. You need to be the aggressor, so to speak, and you need to be pressuring, or Amnesiac is just not going to be able to outlast this.
And now Bill here has to decide how greedy he wants to be with all of these board clears that he has available to him. If you do the pluses and minuses of clearing this board right now, there's kind of 2 equations. Firstly, you have so many board clears that you can feel like you can just keep throwing them out at this point and be fine about it. But then on the minus side, you're playing against Control Paladin, which I have mentioned just does not kill you. So you don't have to react that quickly to board states because you know it's not going to be backed up by a big push that kills you in 1 or 2 turns. So wtybill not choosing to throw out the treasured equality in that situation, just using a consecration and the second weapon charge to take board control, 5-5 against 3-3 now, and back on Amnesiac to try and find some way to generate pressure, because I've said it a million times, it feels like this game already, but the initiative is all on Amnesiac. He is the player that has to make things happen this game.
Yeah, and we see now the Getaway Kodo with the Tyrion from the Stonehill, a lot of extra stuff that didn't start in the deck but is available now, is another turn where Amnesiac's like, right, okay, the board pretty much got cleared. There's a 5-5 on the other side. If I get the Tyrion to connect, to either kill the 5-5 to get a swing in, it gets cleared up, but then it gets Kodo'd, I can play it again. These are all the chances that Amnesiac has to win this game, and it is still pretty close. We can see there's still all the resources in the world for wtybill, but if this Tyrion gets to come down again after getting value, there is a chance that Amnesiac sort of just like pips him at the post, so to speak, you know, just like really just sneaks it through somehow, you know, through this N'Zoth, through this Tyrion, now through the Ragnaros, so it's going to be tough, but Amnesiac's making the best chance he has out of it.
Yeah, Bill had this clear available to him the whole time, though, which was Pyro Consecration, kills the Kodo first, the Conch kills the Divine Shield, and then the 1 damage goes through, which means a clean trade from the Silverhand Recruit. So it was never a big problem if he had the caster vision of knowing that it was Getaway Kodo. He just had to consider all the other available options first, considered them, used the full length of his turn, and said there's no real harm in trying this and seeing if I get punished for it, because, you know, even if it was a noble sacrifice or a redemption or whatever, it wasn't the end of the world to just lead out that way and play around Getaway Kodo first and foremost.
Yeah, and now things change a little bit now. I was going to say wtybill has like the small choice of going Tyrion into the True Silver just to kill off this huge Drake, because the health total is just a pain. But with the Curator pickup, this feels a little bit cleaner. And now the Nemesis story. Hungry Crab's available, Hydrologist is available.
Bill just hates Hydrologists. No, I mean, we're memeing about this a lot. Obviously, he's aimed these techs at aggressive decks that he wants to counter out, and it just so happens that the only one card that features either Murlocs or Secrets from all of Amnesiac's decks is that Hydrologist. So we might even just see him just hold it back here, because how much value is the Hydrologist in this position? His Tyrion is already gone until he has... That was a Stonehill Tyrion.
It was a Stonehill,
right? So
yeah.
Until he has his natural Tyrion, how much value is just exposing the Hydrologist to the board where it can get hungry crabbed in this spot? Because now you know it's been built, it's been drawn a lot of the time, right? Curator pulling a beast is either going to be the Kodo or the hungry crab.
Both kill a Hydrologist.
True. Very true.
Well, it's going to be cleared up now. And also as well, just even if the Hydrologist line isn't as linear as I need to get away Kodo or Tyrion, you know, you might open plays for like Redemption being key. Even like Redemption or Doomsayer, you could get one off purely because the Paladin might be struggled to actually do that 1 extra damage to it once it resurrects. So there's still some other lines that this Hydrologist could go for. But now the onus is on wtybill. When is he going to commit to this N'Zoth?
Let me just fix my face real quick. There is no Kodo in wtybill's list. So Amnesiac actually 100% knows that that hungry crab is in hand right now.
That's why I put Curator in.
There you go. Just rip that crab.
Yeah, and to be fair, if you've played on ladder in the past month, a lot of Paladins play a lot of Murlocs. So
it has been known to happen.
We are joking about the crab, but crab is not an unseen tech in many, many, many decks on ladder and in competition. We saw it a lot last weekend for the European playoffs. And that's going to come down now and just boost Bill almost back to full health. And again, just creating another easy threat. Like, I don't think wtybill really cares too much if this is cleaned up. There's just the damage on board to kill it anyway. But it's just another threat where, you know, if Bill's just taking the approach of burning Amnesiac out of resources, threats, out of damage, out of sustain, then this is how you do it. You just plod one thing on the board. Can you kill it? Okay. Here's my next thing. You will run out of stuff before I do, Amnesiac.
So is this Tarim time for Amnesiac? Because it takes a lot of, you have to take your foot off the gas significantly to deal with this Rag Light Lord otherwise. But Amnesiac says no, and he's going to just continue to leverage his own health total here, which of course you are more than entitled to do against Control Paladin, the deck that cannot kill you ever. So he's just sitting at 8 health right now, feeling perfectly comfortable about the situation. wtybill is now going to try and find some value from Stonehill Defender. Grime Street is high tier, but not as high as it gets. And I love how quickly he's playing here, like as if he doesn't have any other choice as to continue to commit to the board to fight for it, because he's trying to sell Amnesiac on a line where more resources get committed to the board, so this Equality Primordial Drake combination can blow Amnesiac out. I don't think it's necessarily going to work because Amnesiac knows that at least the Primordial Drake is there. It's been drawn off the Curator, it's a guarantee. And with the amount of time that's elapsed, the amount of draws that have been picked up from Amnesiac in this spot, he will know that there is an extremely high chance that Equality is hanging around as well.
Yeah, and we see this as well from Amnesiac on the other side of this, where it's just, just dude and heal. Great. This damage is actually enough to kill you eventually. It's more than 0. But yeah, Amnesiac just applying enough pressure for wtybill to do something, but I would just be dismayed if I was Amnesiac. There's still an Elise pack in the deck. Like, how are you hacking through all of this? It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, Amnesiac is ahead on fatigue, as you can see on the counters on the right-hand side. 10 cards remaining in Amnesiac's deck, 8 in wtybill's, but that's the big question, right? There's still a Tyrion to come. There's still the N'Zoth itself to come. There is still the Elise pack to come. It's just a matter of whether Amnesiac can possibly last the 7-8 turns that he needs to even get wtybill into that fatigue position.
Yeah, and also with the Elise pack, once it's played, the whole, being okay with low health kind of goes out the window a little bit. It's not that you can play around cards from Ungoro, but you've definitely got to consider the fact that you couldn't just chill on like 4 health with a taunt. That could just be a huge problem that the pack has an answer for. Now Acolyte coming down for wtybill. Huh.
I mean, we just mentioned that wtybill isn't playing the fatigue plan here, right? He's trying to set up a board that just kills Amnesiac in this position, so him drawing cards is ideal because he wants to get to his Tyrion to set up this N'Zoth board as best he can.
Yeah, it was just a consideration of with a 1-1, with a Pyro, with a coin, is there a way that Amnesiac could potentially force a quick enough fatigue, but I don't think it's quite there yet.
It's a possibility. Amnesiac will
There's 2 1-attack minions on the board, right? Like, you can force 3.
Be considering it.
That still puts you to 5, or it puts wtybill on 5 cards, 4 on the draw on his next turn. 4 turns is still a long time when you're this far behind.
Lay on Hand's not the ideal choice if Amnesiac is looking for this fatigue game plan. It's whether, there are any key cards remaining in his deck that he hasn't had access to yet, which I believe still has that natural Tyrion we've been talking about in there.
Yeah. Get it.
This is it. I mean, we've said it, right? He has to just try and build a board over and over again and just try and push through, and he's going to go ahead and do that now, denying the card draw. Even though Bill is closer to fatigue, he's continuing to deny the card draw because he knows he doesn't beat the remaining cards in the deck. It's not going to come down to fatigue.
Yeah, well, if that was overall the plan from Amnesiac to go for fatigue, then wtybill just plays his whole hand every single turn. Just splurges everything onto the board. If you clear it, sick. Again, and then they win.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the 5 turns that would have been allowed there was more than enough time for Bill to just empty his hand 5 times over, especially when the N'Zoth is just an easy one to go for. Here we go, there's the Equality and the Primordial Drake to clear the board. Absolutely insane combo. There is the Equality back for Amnesiac as well, and now Harrison can draw an additional 2 cards. So I wonder if we're just gonna see a bit of a slower turn. Maybe the Hydrologist come down now.
Well, again, he knows the crab is there. So the Hydrologist will be playing straight into that Hungry Crab. He still doesn't have the Tyrion in hand, so a lot of the secrets aren't really offering him a great resource just yet. So I would be surprised to see the Hydrologist come down in this position.
But the Hydrologist could have the last laugh, right?
It could. He could also...
Kodo, the crab kills it, Hydrologist is still alive. He's like, ha, I beat you.
It's also potentially a choice he can pair it with Doomsayer here, so that he actually, plays around the Hungry Crab to an extent. So okay, I'm going to play my Hydrologist alongside my Doomsayer, and then ask you to deal with both threats. So if you want to get value out of crabbing my Hydrologist, you have to then deal with my Doomsayer as well.
Yeah. Especially with Noble Sacrifice as an option. You can soak up an attack.
Exactly what's going to happen.
The end is coming!
Maybe Repentance. So any minion that comes out next is going to be reduced to 1 health.
You sounded like you had a thought.
Yeah, I was just thinking if there's a way to actually hold on to this board, but none of it's really worth it, to be completely honest.
No,
Tire him into, like the board, really. Like, just throw the board away. You're fine. You can just nuzz off next turn.
Right, I think the really interesting talking point this turn is just how confusing it was for wtybill to figure out what was going on here. You see him just essentially missing 4 damage to trade into the Hydrologist because the sequencing dictates that Harrison was played first here. So potential things with the Doomsayer going off can give you Harrison back to your hand, potentially, right? If things can happen. So he was just trading into the Murloc there to just try and reduce the impact, and it turns out that was not the case. It was just a Repentance coming down instead.
Well, it would never go back, though, right? Because that's on your own turn. So
is for guests only.
should he have traded into it? Should he have just gone phase? Because if he kills the Murloc and it's Getaway Coder... Oh, I guess that's the best target for Getaway Coder, right? So I guess that was the reasoning. But yeah, there was nothing too crazy for the Harrison there. There's the Crab, though. Gonna come down, soaking up that Repentance.
And finally, the Tyrion has been drawn for Bill, so suddenly the N'Zoth is looking much more appealing in hand for wtybill, and Amnesiac is running out of time to find a win condition for himself in this matchup.
He's running out of time and resources, to be honest, as well. It's going to be a tough one. As soon as this Tyrion dies, it just opens up an even stronger N'Zoth. And wtybill can, frankly, wait till the end of time to play this N'Zoth at this point. He can just wait till this Pyro, mainly this Equality is used, and then play N'Zoth. He has enough pressure to do whatever he wants. He can just drop a Doomsayer to just buy time if he really wants. And just wait and wait and wait.
With the Elise pack still to come as well, he can just generate all the extra pressure that he needs out of that as well to potentially pull the Equality out. So there is so much pressure still to come from wtybill. But Amnesiac, to give him credit, has done incredibly well to stick in this game as long as he has, because he's still not that far behind in the matchup. It's just the amount of remaining value that is in wtybill's deck that is the problem.
Yeah, every single turn that we've seen Amnesiac take is actually, you can see the movements towards winning the game as opposed to towards hanging on within this game. But I don't know, I can't get past this N'Zoth. Maybe Doomsayer into Peacekeeper.
Yep, just ask the question yet again. It does give Amnesiac the ability to tower him here and clean out if he wants to protect the board state, which, his board state isn't really worth protecting. What's important here is just denying the entire free turn of tempo that you would hand back over to wtybill to, from Amnesiac's perspective, maybe Bill is trying to set up a free turn where he plays the pack, fills up his hand, and then just dumps a bunch of minions from the pack onto the board. These are all things that Amnesiac will be worrying about in this spot, and Tarim is about his only useful tool to be able to deny that kind of position.
Yeah, Tarim's even not great here, though, right? It's very frustrating because you actually end up buffing 2 of the 3 minions. Well, you can kill the 1/1. So you can
you trade into the 1/1
you buff the Doomsayer so you lose the 3/3. But, is that enough? Maybe it is. Maybe it's what Amnesiac needs to do to hold on here. Everything else, as you said, just hands the board over, and then everything that's in Amnesiac's hand just feels slow. It's just completely too slow to respond.
Something I want to mention here, and I'll kind of lead into it because this is from Amnesiac's perspective, that he thinks he needs to deny this turn of tempo. Of course, backing this up with the True Silver as well allows him to protect his board state even more heavily.
Sure.
If he could see the hand, he might have let that Doomsayer go off because he'd kind of be happy to see the N'Zoth come down in that situation because he has the answer for it. And the reason he has the answer for it is that he's held onto the coin for the entire game up to this point. Now, the coin can be used to proc the Divine Shield on the Tyrion to then have Equality clear the board. So that's actually a crucial piece of matchup recognition from Amnesiac that he's got spot on in this game.
Yeah, always a tough one if you go to clear the Zoth board against Paladin, and then Tyrion just lives because of Divine Shield.
Right.
A lot of the time, it's the same as not clearing the board.
There is still the Cairn, though, of course. The 4/5 will Death Rattle, I believe. We have seen the Cairn played all the way back, just jammed on turn 6. So, yep, Cairn and Tyrion are going to come out here. He is going to go for his Tyrion board, and he's done it in a situation where Pyro Equality will be forced to clear Amnesiac's board as well, which mitigates some of that value as well.
Yeah, I was wondering whether, do you even attack with this Aldor Peacekeeper, or do you just hold it back? Ooh, okay, it's going to use it to clear the Tyrant. It's reasonable. The Tyrant actually lives through a hit anyway of all of the minions on the board, so that one's the survivor. So if you can clear that off, probably worth just throwing away the Aldor. Now Tyrion from Amnesiac is available, which gives him another thing to think about. Does he need to clear this board, or does he think he can go toe-to-toe with Tyrion? With his opponent's Tyrion, with his own?
It is a good question. Another good question that Amnesiac is trying to ask here is whether he can deal the 1 damage to the Bane that comes out of the Cairn afterwards by using the Pyromancer so that his True Silver can potentially answer. And the answer is yes, he can actually do it preemptively now, opening up the Cairn with the True Silver first and then throwing the Equality out afterwards. And I just mentioned on the previous turn how important that coin keep was for the entire matchup. If Amnesiac remains in this series, it could come down to something as innocuous looking as holding on to the coin for the entire game.
Sometimes the simple answers are the best. Lay on hands.
Yeah, we're not playing that card.
No,
we're just not playing that one.
Not the card he wants. wtybill probably just wishes he could just throw away a card to make more room for the pack. Just like, can I just put this over here? Meteor.
Second
Frozen
Tarim.
Crusher.
Frozen Crusher's just an 8/8. That is a solid pack.
Even the Fire Plume isn't bad, just damage from hand.
Right.
It's actually pretty nice to clear up, proc a shield, just clear up a token even, is actually nice, then the body sticks around. But yeah, Frozen Crusher actually, when it attacks, if you don't know, it freezes itself for a turn. So you can attack every other turn. But when it's an 8/8 this late in the game, yeah, and you have it for free to a certain extent, just 8 damage once.
I mean, first things first, it represents lethal right here and now. That is the big thing about there just being a 5-mana 8/8 in that pack. Amnesiac forced to play Tyrion here to try and deny this lethal setup from wtybill. Could have gone Rag Lightlord instead, but that would have just been a clean trade for the Frozen Crusher. And now wtybill is just having to deal with these last few cards from Amnesiac's deck and this extra value. He still has the Forbidden Healing as well to pull him out of that fatigue damage range. As long as he can find a way here to deal with this Tyrion board state, he's looking in pretty good position because the 2 Tarans as well will help him to wall out any chance of the Ashbringer damage just smashing him in the face over and over.
Yeah, there's a chance he could just trade the Pyro in, drop the Meteor and go. But that is a little bit scary. He could squeeze in the Forbidden Healing as well this turn if he really wanted. Could do some Tarim shenanigans, which guards him actually against the Ashbringer.
Yep.
Which is just reasonably safe. You're just like, well, okay, he probably just can't cut through a Tarim as well. Disappointing that the Frozen Druid is now Frozen and the 3/3. Just having a rough day.
Look,
he did get to swing.
His name is Stanodachi, okay? Frozen Crusher, his name is Stanodachi. Get it right.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I will never get it looking good again. It's going to be 5 damage to the face with this Ashbringer, though, and just start to really pressure in. Suddenly, an additional swing of the Ashbringer. There's going to be 1 damage from Fatigue next turn from Amnesiac. wtybill is going to take 1 now. This Ragnaros Lightlord will hold him in the game for now, at least.
It will, but Tarim number 2, Meteor, both really clean answers to it, Equality as well. And crucially, yes, wtybill is lower on health and fatiguing first, but he has that extra 20 healing from Forbidden Healing
20
on demand that Amnesiac was forced. I want to say forced. He correctly used his first Ashbringer, I believe, to really take a bunch of board control, took 18 to 20 damage in the process, and then used Forbidden Healing.
He hit the Lightlord, right?
Right.
I
mean, he hit a bunch of chunky dudes in the mid-game. The mid-game in this matchup, of course, being turns 16 and 17.
Yeah. This is still the same game, guys. So we are going to Fatigue. Burn Bristle going to help top up Amnesiac's health whilst negating some of the trades onto the board. Fireplume Phoenix can chip off the shield or kill the minion, either or. From hand, but I feel like this Forbidden Healing timing is actually very important.
It is. So Bill just took 1 fatigue this turn, correct?
Yes.
Which means if he has tracked the deck of his opponent correctly, he knows he does not have to heal this turn. The Ashbringer connects to his face, that puts him to 3. He takes 2 fatigue on the following turn, so he is fine. So this turn, he can play entirely for board control, which something like a quality Fireplume Phoenix, for example, just to clear out, a Meteor Fireplume Phoenix this turn, just to clear out the board state, looks absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, also as well, all these players know the deck list, but don't have the deck list in front of them, right? So what's important is that the card that Amnesiac has left is Ragnaros Lightlord. It's a card you are very likely to remember not being played, because this is something that will probably, or potentially come into the later rounds as fatigue starts to kick in for the players themselves after playing so much Hearthstone, is that, you know, remembering all the cards from your opponent's list can get pretty tough, and now wtybill is actually just seems a little bit confused with himself at this point.
He does. He definitely did have a full board clear available with the Fireplume Phoenix, I believe, which means there was no additional damage, which means potentially that Forbidden Healing has come down a turn too early. Choosing to Ashbringer down the 1/1 as well, just to protect his 3/1 on board this turn, is another strange decision. So he might have just seen an alternative line here where Fireplume Phoenix can just go face for the last points of damage he needs. Battlecry deal 2, that will push 8. In total, meaning that the 3rd tick of fatigue that Amnesiac takes will then end up killing him, but still looked a little bit cleaner with the line I suggested. But now Amnesiac, with 1 remaining threat in his hand, knows there is an equality still in wtybill's deck, is trying to find a way to make this happen, doesn't see it, and I think that look on Amnesiac's face is a look of resigned defeat. He has done the maths, he realizes he can no longer win this game, and he realizes that he is in trouble here.
Yeah, this is absolutely huge, and this goes to the sense and just displays how much in control wtybill has been during this game, in the fact that he still has that equality and Amnesiac has no cards left. Like, that's kind of crazy. Normally, you would have, you know, the equalities are used for the big board swings, for the big plays, but wtybill has been in such a good position for almost all of this game that it's just allowed him to just keep hold of it, and effectively is the key card that's going to take him into this game.
Whoa, why is Bill keeping the frozen minion alive as opposed to the non-frozen minion? Could he, that was a 3/1 remaining, right? So he couldn't have traded in the first place, it was a 3/1 to start with.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Well, I'll let him off this once. Fireplume Phoenix is still held in hand. Now there's a taunt in the way, and Amnesiac doesn't even have the swings to get through the Tarim. The victory is yours, wtybill, and he takes it over Amnesiac in round 1 of the Swiss. Great victory for him. Coming through he's one of the Tavern heroes, but a player we know very, very well with some great tournament experience in the Hearthstone Championship Tour.
Yeah, and crucially, it was just, you know, he hit the lineup that he was really looking for. He had incredibly greedy control, and he ran into slightly less greedy control, which is a series that he's always going to come out on top of. I mentioned there was a few tech cards in the lists that could have punished him. Amnesiac actually did some really cute plays to try and make sure that those tech cards never found value, but it just wasn't enough. When you have an Elise in your deck for 5 extra cards, an Azoth in your deck for an extra Ken, an extra Tyrion, and an extra Ashbringer, you're not going to push through that in the control Paladin mirror. And you saw Amnesiac time after time looking for those tempo pushes, the Aldor Kodo kind of plays, just trying to push initiative where he could. Just ran out in the end.
Yeah, it was definitely a rough one, but Bill is looking fantastic. I think just relieved. He's like, okay, wake up. That was a long series. You've got 5 more rounds to go today from Swiss, but I believe we've got some more information coming from this round.